The fluorescent lights hummed softly in the basement corridors of Harrison Manufacturing as CEO Robert Harrison made his way through the lower levels of his own company. At 38, with sharp features and an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, Robert had built this business from the ground up over the past 15 years. Tonight, however, he was not here as the commanding executive his employees knew. He was conducting an unannounced late-night inspection, something he did periodically to understand what really happened in his company when management was not watching. It was nearly midnight on a Thursday, and the manufacturing floors above were quiet. Only the skeleton crew of night shift workers and maintenance staff remained in the building. Robert had entered through a side entrance, using his master key card, and was making his rounds through different departments when he noticed something unusual. A faint light was visible beneath the door of supply closet B7, a storage room that should have been locked and empty at this hour. Robert approached quietly, his expensive leather shoes making barely a whisper against the polished concrete floor. As he drew closer, he could hear the soft sound of someone breathing. Robert hesitated for a moment. His first instinct as a CEO was to assume someone was either stealing supplies or conducting some inappropriate activity on company property. He prepared himself to confront whatever situation he might find behind that door. What he discovered, however, was something that would fundamentally change his understanding of his own company and the people who worked for it. When Robert carefully opened the door, he found a young woman in a custodial uniform sitting on the floor against the wall, her eyes closed in exhaustion. She appeared to be in her late 20s, with blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and wearing the standard light blue shirt and dark pants of the janitorial staff. Yellow rubber gloves lay beside her, and her name tag read Sarah Mitchell. Sarah was not sleeping in the traditional sense. She was leaning against the wall with her head tilted back, clearly exhausted but still partially alert. Her breathing was steady but shallow, and even in the dim light, Robert could see the deep circles under her eyes that spoke of chronic fatigue. The supply closet itself told a story that immediately caught Robert's attention. While it contained the expected cleaning supplies and equipment, there were also personal items carefully arranged in one corner. A small pillow, a thin blanket, a thermos, and what appeared to be textbooks stacked neatly beside a small battery-powered reading light. Robert stood in the doorway for a long moment, taking in the scene. This was clearly not a case of employee misconduct. This was someone who was living in his building, and the organized, respectful way she had arranged her few belongings suggested this was not a temporary situation. "Excuse me," Robert said gently, not wanting to startle her. Sarah's eyes flew open immediately, and she scrambled to her feet with the quick reflexes of someone accustomed to being alert even while resting. "I am so sorry, sir," she said, her voice filled with panic as she took in Robert's expensive suit and authoritative presence. "I know I am not supposed to be here. I was just taking a short break. I can explain." Robert held up a hand to calm her. "Please, do not worry. You are not in trouble. I am just trying to understand the situation. My name is Robert." Sarah looked confused by his relatively gentle tone, but she remained obviously nervous. "I am Sarah Mitchell. I work the night custodial shift. I know this looks bad, but I promise I was not sleeping on company time. I finished all my assigned areas early, and I just needed a few minutes to rest before starting the deep cleaning tasks." Robert studied her more carefully. Despite her exhaustion, Sarah carried herself with dignity. Her uniform was clean and well maintained, and even in her obvious distress, she spoke clearly and professionally. "Sarah, I need to ask you something directly, and I want you to tell me the truth. Are you living here in the building?" Sarah's face went pale, and for a moment, Robert thought she might deny it. Then her shoulders sagged slightly, and she nodded. "Yes, sir. But only temporarily. And I have never interfered with my work responsibilities. I complete all my duties every night, and I keep my personal belongings confined to this one small area. I have not taken anything that does not belong to me." "How long has this been going on?" Robert asked, his voice carefully neutral. 3 weeks, Sarah replied quietly. "I know it is against company policy, and I know I could be fired for it. But I did not have any other choice, and I was hoping to save enough money to get back into proper housing soon." Robert felt something shift in his chest. Here was a dedicated employee who was working hard every night while secretly homeless, and her primary concern was still about maintaining her work performance and following company rules as much as possible. "Can you tell me what happened? What led to this situation?" Sarah hesitated, clearly weighing whether honesty would help or hurt her cause. Finally, she took a deep breath and began to speak. "I was studying to become a nurse while working here at night. The schedule worked well because I could attend classes during the day and work here in the evenings to pay for school. But 3 weeks ago, my roommate moved out suddenly and left me responsible for the full rent on our apartment. I could not afford it on my salary alone." She gestured to the textbooks beside her makeshift sleeping area. "I am in my final semester of nursing school. I only have 2 months left before I graduate and can get a better paying job as a registered nurse. But I could not afford to keep the apartment and pay for my final semester's tuition and fees. I had to choose between dropping out of school or finding another place to live." Robert looked at the textbooks more closely. Advanced pharmacology, critical care nursing, medical ethics. These were not casual reading materials. This was someone who was genuinely committed to a challenging educational program. "So you chose to live here temporarily while finishing school?" "I know how it sounds," Sarah said quickly. "But I researched the situation carefully. I knew the custodial staff has access to the building 24 hours a day for emergencies and special projects. I make sure to be working during all the hours when other employees or management might be in the building. I only rest here during the deepest part of the night shift when no one else is around. And I always make sure my work is completed to the highest standard." Robert was struck by the thoughtfulness and planning that had gone into Sarah's decision. This was not impulsive or reckless behavior. This was someone making careful calculations about how to survive a temporary crisis while maintaining her responsibilities and working toward a better future. "What about food? Hygiene? Basic necessities?" "There is a 24-hour gym 3 blocks away where I have a membership," Sarah explained. "I shower there before my shift starts each evening. For food, I mostly eat simple things that do not require cooking. I use the microwave in the employee break room during my official break times. I know it is not ideal, but it is only temporary." Robert found himself impressed by Sarah's resourcefulness and determination. She had found solutions to practical problems while maintaining her work ethic and continuing her education. This was exactly the kind of problem-solving ability and dedication that he valued in employees, but she was applying it to survive circumstances that no one should have to face. "Sarah, can I ask you about your work performance? How do you feel you have been handling your duties while dealing with this situation?" Sarah straightened up, and for the first time since he had found her, she looked confident. "I take pride in my work, sir. I know that janitorial work is not glamorous, but this company has given me steady employment that has allowed me to put myself through nursing school. I complete every task on my checklist every night, and I often do additional deep cleaning tasks when I have extra time." "And your supervisors? What do they say about your performance?" "Mrs. Rodriguez, the night shift supervisor, gave me an excellent evaluation last month. She said I was one of the most reliable and thorough custodial workers she had supervised in her 10 years with the company." Robert nodded slowly. Everything Sarah was telling him aligned with what he was observing. Even in this desperate situation, she was maintaining professional standards and taking responsibility for her circumstances rather than making excuses. "Sarah, I want you to know that you are not in trouble, and you are not going to be fired. But I do want to help you find a better solution to this situation. Would you be willing to discuss some options with me?" Sarah looked confused and suspicious. "I do not understand. Who are you exactly? You are not wearing a company uniform, and I do not recognize you from the management team." Robert realized he had reached a moment of decision. He could continue his anonymity, or he could trust Sarah with the truth. Given her honesty with him, he felt she deserved the same in return. "Sarah, my name is Robert Harrison. I own this company." Sarah's eyes widened, and she took a step backward. "You are the CEO? Mr. Harrison?" "I am. And I want you to know that discovering your situation has taught me something important about my own company. You represent exactly the kind of employee we should be supporting and investing in. Someone who is dedicated, hardworking, and committed to bettering herself through education. 1. Sarah still looked stunned. I do not understand. Are you going to fire me? Absolutely not. I am going to help you. First, we are going to find you proper housing immediately. The company has a relationship with several apartment complexes in the area, and we can arrange temporary housing while you finish your nursing program. Sir, I appreciate the offer, but I cannot afford more than what I am paying now, which is nothing. Robert smiled. Sarah, consider it an investment in a valuable employee. When you graduate and become a registered nurse, I would like to offer you a position in our on-site medical clinic. We have been looking for qualified nursing staff, and your dedication and problem-solving abilities make you exactly the kind of person we want on our team. Sarah sat down heavily on a supply crate, looking overwhelmed. I do not know what to say. This is not at all what I expected when you found me here. Sometimes the most important discoveries happen when we are not looking for them, Robert said. You have shown me that there might be other employees facing similar challenges, people who are working hard but struggling with circumstances beyond their control. That is something I need to address as a leader. Over the next hour, Robert and Sarah worked out the details of a plan that would allow her to finish her education while maintaining her dignity and independence. The company would provide temporary housing assistance, and Sarah would transition to a part-time custodial role that would better accommodate her final semester class schedule. 6 weeks later, Sarah graduated from nursing school with honors and accepted a position as the head nurse in Harrison Manufacturing's employee health clinic. But more importantly, her situation had inspired Robert to create a comprehensive employee assistance program that provided support for workers facing temporary hardships while pursuing education or dealing with emergencies. The supply closet was converted into a quiet study room for employees taking classes, complete with comfortable seating, good lighting, and educational resources. A small plaque by the door read, "Sometimes the greatest potential is found in the most unexpected places." Robert never forgot the lesson Sarah taught him that night, that true leadership means looking beyond the obvious to understand the real circumstances of the people who make a company successful. And Sarah never forgot that sometimes, when we are honest about our struggles and continue to do our best despite them, help can come from the most unexpected sources. The company culture at Harrison Manufacturing changed fundamentally after that night, becoming a place where employees felt supported in their efforts to build better lives for themselves and their families. All because a CEO took the time to really see one of his employees, and an employee had the courage to tell the truth about her circumstances.